Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Nvidia daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Nvidia stock. Let's talk about what is happening to Nvidia today, what we can expect moving forward, and yeah, all that good stuff. So as per usual, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my analysis, I do have a membership section on YouTube. That link is down below in the description of this video. For just $3 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, etc. Every single day the market is open, mainly on Tesla stock, but lately I've been obviously doing other stocks. For instance, again, AMD, green. I've been talking about Intel and Nike late last week, all green today, despite Tesla and Nvidia tanking, right? Remember my theory I mentioned, how I personally believe that there's a chance that Nvidia money gets rotated out and into AMD and into Intel, both in the same industry, but both very underloved and very destroyed over the last several months, really. I'm not saying it's confirmed yet. It's only one candle. It's only one day. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but so far, not too bad, right? So far, that theory sounds a little bit more plausible now. Anyway, let's talk about it. Again, that link is below, or for $5 a month, you get access to all of that, plus my Nvidia daily updates as well in the membership section. But jumping into it, Nvidia closing the day down 4.2%, closing pretty much at $136 per share, which obviously compared to the market is going to be a pretty significant underperformance. Now, what does this mean moving forward for Nvidia? Is it all over? Is the bull thesis done? Is Nvidia ready to correct, or is this just a massive bear trap? That's the question I'm sure people are asking. Well, you probably know my answer. I think that this is very bearish. This is not what you want to be seeing. Now, again, I want to preface this. Just because I am going to sound pretty bearish here, but that doesn't mean that the stock has to quite literally crater starting tomorrow and it'll just only go down from... No, that's not how these things work, right? Even if the stock is bearish, it'll still bounce. It'll still have phenomenal green days. It's not... I mean, it could, but I doubt it's just going to completely and utterly crash, like 5%, or nothing, nothing like that. I just want to make that very obvious and, preface that. However, with that being said and done, there are some pretty major red flags here that I do not like to see. Let's start with the most basic one, and that's going to be a break of character or structure. What is that? Well, essentially, and I've said this many times, and I told you this is my red flag if this happens, and it happened today. Nvidia, ever since this bottoming over here, what has it been doing? It has been pretty much making more or less higher highs, higher lows. And today is the first time since, arguably since all the way back here in September, we have broken that trend. We have officially made a lower low, right? That is the first lower low we have set since this uptrend has really begun. And that's not what I like to see, right? Because we set this a higher low here, and we did set a higher high here, and then we went below this pivot point down here. Remember how I mentioned, I constantly said it last week, 137.2 roughly. I do not want to go below that at any point. Even just going below it temporarily is bad. But not only did we go below it temporarily, we closed at the low of the day, and we closed below that level. That to me is like very, very, very bearish. Like, that doesn't mean, again, it has to completely and utterly crater starting tomorrow and only continue cratering for the next, month or something like that. No, absolutely not. In fact, I actually think it's going to bounce relatively soon. But what this means is the fact that the structure is now bearish. We have officially set a fresh lowered low that we haven't done for months. Now, the next thing to watch for is a bounce. There will be a bounce. We're not just going to crater down, to Earth's core from here. That's not how things work. Nvidia is too strong of a stock to do that. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think that there might be a little bit more pain ahead. I wouldn't be surprised if we go down to closer to like maybe, 133, roughly 134, something like that tomorrow. If we do, I will actually be buying that. But, and I'll explain why. But the point is the fact that somewhere around this range, I don't know where, somewhere around this range, I do expect the bottom to form. I do expect Nvidia to get a potential bounce. But the issue is the fact that I honestly expect this bounce to be nothing more than pretty much a dead cat bounce. So once we find the bottom, we'll obviously you can always do the Fibonacci. For instance, let's just use an example. Let's say it comes down to 133.5, just as an example. And that's where, let's say, it bottoms out. Like, let's just, use that for now. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Nvidia actually gets a pretty decently sizable bounce. Honestly, it could even go all the way back up to mid 140s for that 618 Fibonacci. It really depends on where this bottom forms. Maybe it forms at 131 and then we'll go up to like 144. I don't know where it'll form. Maybe even just 140. That'll be like very bearish. But the point is, again, I expect a bottom soon. But all that bottom is going to do is create a dead cat bounce based on the Fibonacci's, rally somewhere up here. I don't know yet. We need to see where the bottom is first, or at least where it potentially looks like it wants to form. But again, this dead cat will be literally a dead cat, and I think this will be a potential seller rally. And I think all this is going to do is pretty much just form a now fresh lower high. And if that happens, and now we not only do a lower low, but a lower high, this reversal structure is officially confirmed, and we most likely continue our way down well below this overall level. So this is where you really want to be careful with Nvidia, in my opinion. It is getting very, very concerning here. And on top of that, one thing else to note is the fact that if I bring out the market bias, for instance, let's talk about this one first. We've been holding this market bias since all the way back here in pretty much the 1st of October, roughly, right? We've been holding it and we've been bouncing off of it the whole time. And now we closed well below it. Now, granted, the market bias is still green. It's much more slower of essentially a moving average, if you will. It's essentially like a moving average jumbled in one, like several in a row, if that makes sense. So it's still green. It's not going to cross just yet to red. But just even going below like this is a little bit concerning. So because it's slower, what you can also look at is going to be the 21 EMA and the 8 EMA, which is this band right here. It's a little bit more aggressive and faster, but it obviously can have more false signals. But same idea, right? This has been green ever since this candle all the way back here in late September, and it's been green ever since. The 8 EMA has been above the 21 EMA the whole rally. The whole rally. And now you can see as I zoom in, we're getting damn close for this green line to be crossing the red line, or in other words, the 8 EMA crossing below the 21. That to me is going to be another sign of the, a potential reversal structure. And that's not going to be very, very ideal. You definitely would want to see this not cross to the bearish side if you're bull, or if you're bear, you absolutely want this to cross. So that's something else I'm not looking forward to seeing if it happens. And if this does happen, this will just continue adding to the bearish thesis, despite honestly me thinking that just dropping below this 137.2 level is probably damn good enough. So again, I don't like the way it's looking. And again, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. We've had some pretty serious bearish divergences on Nvidia for quite some time, especially on the RSI and the MACD, etc. For instance, right, Nvidia over here made its high on the RSI all the way back up at around, what is this, 90 roughly, right? And that was back when Nvidia was only at about $138 per share. And then it kept going higher. It kept going higher, making higher highs, etc., etc., etc. But it kept making lower highs. And we talked about this many times. It kept pretty much making a bearish divergence, not only on the RSI, but also on the MACD. Because here, look at this, right? As a stock was going higher, 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 the MACD, the lines, lower, 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 right? Just a nice looking bearish divergence as well. So you want to be watching out for those kind of things, right? That's not ideal. Those, a large bearish divergence like this does take some time to play out. It's very, very slow. It's not a lagging indicator, but it's a very slow indicator to play out. It's like a turtle, right? It's very slow. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is pretty powerful when it does happen. And it seems like it might be happening here. So yeah, I'd be really careful here, guys. I'd be really, really careful here. Now, I'll talk briefly about potential bounce. Like, again, I do think that there's a chance Nvidia does potentially get a bounce from here. I mean, no matter how I even draw this technical, this line right here, it's crossing below it. It's not looking too hot, I'll be honest. But I do think, like I said, a short-term bottom actually can be put in relatively soon, maybe even as early as tomorrow. Why is that? Well, let's bring out my other favorite indicator, and this is going to be the Bands regression. The Bands regression is essentially showing when a stock is too overbought or too oversold, especially a strong stock like Nvidia or like any of the Mag 7, really. Usually when they're too overbought or too oversold, they don't stay there for that long. Let's just say that's right. They don't stay there for that long. Now, Nvidia to me gets too oversold on the daily, closer to the low 130s. Low 130s, I think it starts getting a little bit oversold on the daily, but on the 4 hour, even getting as low as about the 135-ish range is already 130, like 134, 135, somewhere around there is already getting pretty oversold. For instance, last time the 4 hour came to this level, you can see here, nice looking bounce, right? Last time it came down here, I mean, this obviously was a continued sell-off. This is a pretty aggressive post-earnings sell-off, but nonetheless, if you just continued slowly nibbling on this dip, you were damn good to go. You were damn good to go moving forward after that. So that's why I personally believe if Nvidia does come down to about the 134, 133, something like that, as early as tomorrow, I do think that around that range will be a short-term bottom as long as 130 holds. And I think Nvidia will get a bounce from there. I do think we'll get a bounce from there. I do think we'll bounce and get a dead cat up to potentially as high as 145, roughly. But that'll just be not only a dead cat, but it'll also most likely be a lower high. And I think we most likely go down from there after that, unfortunately. So yeah, let's see how it plays out, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to require patience. Make sure you're, not being stupid about it, because this is how you lose money, and a lot of money. So yeah, let's just see how it goes. That's kind of what I see moving forward, and that's kind of what I'm expecting. Also, I forgot to mention, I should have mentioned this last week. I completely forgot, but I should have. My mistake. One other thing I do want to mention really quickly here is going to be, I want to remove all these indicators for now. I want to remove all these for now. I want to remove this for now as well. So one thing I forgot to mention is the fact that remember 2 weeks ago, if you look, I mentioned it in the video when it actually did happen, these 2 weekly candles here, right? This first week of November and second week of November candles, right? Remember we mentioned how we had an inside week candle on this candle here? Well, remember how I mentioned going above or below that weekly candle range is going to be bearish or bullish, you know, depending on which obviously direction we go. We actually did both. That's the thing that made it annoying. We actually did both, unfortunately. But we ended up closing below it, essentially, below the open price or the closing price of that week's candle last week and the week before that, right? And now we're seeing some follow through on that right now. So this alone is a pretty bearish pattern that we are sort of starting to play out, as well as if all the other things weren't enough. And as if that wasn't enough, my weekly MACD is also now crossing bearish. Now keep in mind, my MACD is a bit more in an aggressive setting. It's not the typical MACD, but it's not far from it. It's only slightly more aggressive just to make it a little bit more active and responsive, but without making it too active and responsive where it just constantly has, you know, false signals everywhere. But it is crossing bearish on the weekly as well. Obviously, there's still time left in the week, but nonetheless, watch for that moving forward as well. But all that being said and done, like I said, Nvidia, in my opinion, has turned bearish overall, but short term, I do think we're getting close to a bottom. A stock like this doesn't just sell off like this for too long without getting some bounce. It just doesn't happen. I do think we're close to a bottom, and I will be very much eyeballing about 134-ish as early as tomorrow. If we get there, I will be most likely getting excited for that, for a potential bounce from there. But all that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.